You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by the brilliantly talented, gorgeously handsome Andrew Ellis. It is a Monday. It is April 7th, and the Arkansas Razorbacks are the number one team in the country, according to D1 Baseball, according to Baseball America, even according to Perfect Game, who, as we all know, ranked Arkansas number 13 to start the season. What the hell are those guys thinking? I know a lot of Hog fans kind of have weird feelings about Arkansas being number one in the poll. They think it's a curse. They don't want that attention. And honestly, you know, who am I to tell you you're wrong? But I do think it is representative of how well the Arkansas Razorbacks have played. Of course, they're coming off of a very dominant, very loud sweep over the Missouri Tigers, where they outscored the worst team in the SEC 51-9, which is always cool to see. Arkansas improves to 11-1 in SEC play, 30-3 on the year. Just an unbelievable start, man. But as we all know, our goal entering this season was not to be the number one team in the country on April 7th. You want to be the number one team in the country down the stretch in late June in Omaha, and that's still the goal for this team. But I do think it is kind of a cool thing to just note that through 33 games, there has not been a better team in the country than the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I think we all agree there's still plenty of room for this team to grow. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about who were some of the winners of the weekend, as we do here on these Monday episodes of the Baumbastic Podcast. Also going to take a very brief, quick trip into ProHog territory. I want to run through a couple guys that you might not know about that have had some interesting starts to their professional season so far. Of course, the minor league season began over the weekend for most organizations. AAA, the league right below MLB, AAA started, I think, a week or maybe 10 days ago. It's been a couple weeks for them. But a lot of these Razorbacks and former Razorbacks either made their pro debuts or started their professional seasons. And so always want to keep an eye on some of those and note who's doing some cool stuff. But before we get into any of that, you guys know, I must remind you that we are brought to you by Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience, the creme de la creme of Razorback merchandise. Seriously, I mean, you hear me talk about them a lot, but it's for good reason. They are the best Razorback shopping experience, the most diverse, the most high brand, high value, high everything shopping you can do for Razorback merchandise. You can check those guys out over at 3417 North College Avenue in Fayetteville, right by the Whole Foods where Curtis gets his groceries, or you can visit their online store. You hear me yap about them all the time, and you're probably thinking, Alumni Hall can't be that good. Well, go check them out. Check out their online store, insidearkansas.com/alumni hall. That website will take you right to their online store. You can kind of see for yourself, see what kind of stuff they have, whether it's shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts. I guess we're kind of exiting, hopefully, hoodie season. But, you need some cool stuff for the spring, cool stuff for the summertime. If you're getting a gift for anybody, like, for instance, my brother-in-law, shout out to Cody Ladner. It's his birthday today. I might have to go stop by Alumni Hall and get him some stuff for the weekend. But it's never a bad time to re-up your Razorback gear. I know how much Hog fans love wearing their colors and repping their team. And of course, I'm sure you've all got your favorite hoodie, your favorite shirt or whatever that, your lucky shirt that you've worn, but you can always diversify your portfolio in the merch game, and Alumni Hall is the place to do it. Like I said, you can go check them out, 3417 North College Avenue, or visit the online store, insidearkansas.com/alumni hall. The promo code HOGSBY20 will give you 20% off your first purchase there. So it's a deal you shouldn't pass up. And it is the best apparel in the Razorback department you will find. And as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about winners of the weekend, as we always do. Sometimes I do the thing where I have it and it comes out one by one. I just threw them all here on the same graphic today, but we're going to talk about it all. And again, there were no shortage of winners from this weekend with the way the Razorbacks played. And of course, you were facing a really bad team. And so, some can probably look at that and say, this weekend means nothing. But as always, here on the Baumbastic Podcast, we try to take the good with the bad. We try to just take takeaways from everything, whether it's a scrimmage, whether it's a midweek game, whether it's a weekend game, weekend series. There's always takeaways to be had, and there's developments to talk about. And I want to acknowledge them all, and I want to talk about them all. And so here are your winners of the weekend, is the way I should say that. We got to start at the top with two guys that I feel like have basically clinched like permanent status. In fact, I was seeing a guy, I don't want to say the wrong name, but there was a national college baseball guy who does his basically some version of winners of the weekend. I can't remember the term for it, but he has Charles Davalon, and he was like, I'm just going to give him a permanent spot because he's always, a guy that has had a big performance. When you're talking about who is the best guys of the weekend, Charles Davalon always seems to be up there. Cam Kozeal, the Vanderbilt transfer, who just continues to rake for Arkansas, has now kind of solidified himself in that same kind of realm. He had an absolute monster weekend at the plate, goes 9 for 12, hits 2 home runs, 3 doubles, also worked 3 walks, which I do think is notable. Cam Kozeal has a very aggressive approach at the plate, doesn't really like to take pitches, not really his forte, but I thought it was cool to see him take 3 walks, which against Missouri, there were plenty of those to be had. Drives in 13 runs and scores 8. Obviously, Arkansas scored 51 runs this weekend, so there was plenty of that going around. But that kind of production, man, like that's big time stuff. And I mean, of course, the opponent's not very good, worth noting, but 21 runs in a 3-game series that he basically accounted for himself. I mean, hell, Arkansas scored 22 runs total in the series against Vanderbilt last weekend. And now you have the Vanderbilt transfer, Cam Kozeal, providing 21 runs by himself. That's big time stuff. You see below him, Charles Davalon, 5 for 13, 2 home runs, 2 walks, 9 RBI, 5 runs. Charles Davalon now leads this team in home runs with 11. Just continues to be that guy, continues to set the tone at the top of this lineup for the Razorbacks. There's been a lot of discuss in the streets, so I've been seeing more and more tweets about, is Charles Davalon the best leadoff hitter in the country? And man, I haven't scanned around the nation to see. I'm sure there's a couple leadoff guys that have put up some crazy numbers, but it's really hard to beat a 400 average with 11 home runs, which, like I said, leads the team on a team full of sluggers. Big time stuff. And going back to Cam Kozeal, if I can for a second, guys, I don't know what happened to Cam Kozeal over Christmas break, but whatever it was, we need to study it. And in fact, I kind of want to talk to Cam myself and just say, what the hell happened over the holidays, man? Because I think if you've been paying attention to the podcast or you've been following the program all season and all off season, you heard me pretty critical of Cam Kozeal in the fall. And it wasn't just me. I mean, you can really ask any media member, anybody that was there. We heard a lot of, he was a kind of a guy that was viewed as a big time transfer from Arkansas, and it just didn't show up right away. I mean, he hit 206 during fall practice for the Razorbacks, and we were all kind of like, man, we were all, I don't want to say underwhelmed, but like kind of surprised by the way it played out. And, we entered the offseason being like, hey, it's going to be a competition between him and Nolan Souza. And that tells you how quickly things can change. Back in the fall, we were like, it's not really a discussion. Like, Nolan Souza is going to be in the lineup. We'll see if Cam Kozeal can get in there at first base, DH, or whatever, which wound up being what happened. But even Dave Van Horn kind of publicly challenged Cam Kozeal, and he's like, look, we can talk about what position he needs to play and where we need to move guys around, but he's got to start hitting. And I don't know what happened over Christmas break, but it certainly flipped. And, I think the narrative is that he stunk in the scrimmages and now he's great in the games. That's not actually true because, like I said, when we came back from Christmas break and they started doing some scrimmages leading up to the season, that's when we saw the Cam Kozeal that we see now. He goes 10 for 23 in those 9 scrimmages leading up to the season, had a couple of doubles in there, had a home run in there. And so that's where we kind of maybe started to see, okay, this is the guy that we thought we were getting. This is the guy who was a big-time recruit and had a really solid freshman year at Vanderbilt, and you kind of thought he was on this awesome trajectory again. So I really don't know if maybe he just needed to work out the rust a little bit in fall practice. Maybe it's just a small sample size that nobody should be overreacting to, but it is very interesting how I don't know what happened, but whatever he was doing over the holidays, maybe just being with the fam and singing Christmas carols is what got him in the mood for hitting. But he came back from Christmas just a completely different guy. And I mean, you guys have seen him now as a Razorback in the season. Unbelievable. I mean, he has this confidence about him. We always use the term dirtbag. I feel like Cam Kozeal was like as dirtbag gets. I love his mentality. I love his approach. And when I say approach, I'm not even talking about hitting approach, but of course he's got some pretty good skills there as well. I just mean his approach to baseball, his approach to life. Like, he's just a grinder and a guy that has that quiet confidence about him. And, I feel like this team has a personality about it. This team has a confidence and just a good mentality where they just show up to the yard and want to play baseball. And I feel like guys like Cam Kozeal, who I think is an important leader on this team, an important vocal piece for this team. I feel like guys like him and guys like Charles Davalon kind of set that tone. And I feel like obviously Arkansas went out in the transfer portal and got guys like that to fill out some production in the lineup, give you some boost in terms of production, in terms of hitting and all that. But I really think those two guys and their personality, and it's not just them. I mean, you can go on down the line. Rocco Pepe is a guy that's not even playing for Arkansas right now. He's been banged up, been unavailable. I think he also kind of has this personality, and I think that just helps your locker room, helps the overall team morale, and helps that mindset. And so, when we talk about this Razorback team and, are they going to be able to handle the curse of the 1 seed? Are they going to handle all these high expectations? Are they going to get scared in the postseason? I don't want to speak to, I don't want to put too much on these guys just yet, but when you listen to this team talk and you're around these guys, it doesn't seem like a group that really gets too high or too low. Like I said, they just like playing baseball. They like going up there and swinging. They feel like they can hit anything thrown their way, and it's hard not to feel that way. Cam Kozeal, by the way, in SEC play, Cam Kozeal hitting .532. And that's where he's hit 5 of his home runs. I mean, you're just going down the line. Arkansas's numbers in SEC play, unreal. Logan Maxwell hitting .462 in SEC play. He didn't play in game 3, but I thought he was really good. He very well was on track to being one of the winners of the weekend, hit his 9th home run of the year as well. And Charles Davalon also hitting .429 in SEC play. He's hit 8 of his 11 home runs in SEC games. Unbelievable stuff. Those two guys, I feel like, have just been massive transfers for this Arkansas team and huge, huge lifts to the program overall. And a guy who is not a transfer, but I feel like has certainly lifted his game, is our third winner of the weekend. That's Ryder Helfrick. I kind of couldn't believe it when I was going to tally up the numbers, because a lot of times I go into this and I kind of know who my winner of the weekend is just off of watching the games and kind of knowing, hey, Cam Kozeal had a bunch of hits, but I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. I end up tallying the numbers when I go to make this graphic, and I was tallying the numbers, and I'm like, holy cow, Ryder Helfrick went 7 for 8 at the plate. That's just like a number you don't really see much. Goes 7 for 8, has 3 doubles, worked a couple walks, drove in 3 runs, scored 6 more. That's big time production out of your catcher. That's big time production out of your 7-8 hole. I think he, went between those two spots. A guy at the bottom of the lineup really setting that tone. That's big time stuff from Ryder Helfrick, who, by the way, as of now, has a .310 batting average for the season. And will his batting average end up there? I'm sure it won't. I'm sure it'll probably end up below 300, somewhere in that range. But, for Ryder Helfrick, he's kind of one of those guys. We know he has power. And, of course, he's a catcher. And historically, you're not expecting big-time offense out of your catcher more often than not. I mean, we've had a lot of catchers at the University of Arkansas where if they could hit 220, we would have thrown them a parade. To get a guy like that, that's really not only a threat at the plate, and we know Ryder Helfrick is a threat with the power he brings and how aggressive he is. I mean, how many times have we seen him hit a 400-foot home run foul? That kind of sets that tone of a guy you kind of have to work around, and he works his fair share of walks. Also laid down a bunt. Reached one of his hits this weekend was on a bunt. He's also hitting the ball to the opposite field a little bit. He doesn't hit the ball hard to the opposite field, but a lot of times teams are playing him so far on the pull side, he's able to just kind of squirt one over there to the right side, and it's able to work out. He also wore out that third base line a good bit. Thought he had his 6th home run of the year. I think he certainly thought he had his 6th home run of the year. Ends up hitting a ball so hard it hit off the fence there in left center. And that's what's crazy about what Ryder Helfrick's doing right now. Like, if you had told me preseason, hey, Arkansas is going to get a huge boost of offense from Ryder Helfrick, I would have probably told you, okay, he's probably hitting a ton of home runs and maybe has that 260, 270 batting average, but he's got double-digit home runs, especially if you told me 3 guys on this Razorback lineup would have double-digit home runs already. I would have probably told you Ryder Helfrick was one of those guys. He's only got 5 home runs on the year, which I say only, like that's a pretty respectable number. He's on pace for about 10. That's a good number for your catcher, especially a sophomore catcher, really in his first year at the helm. But this is a guy who hit 11 home runs in the Cape Cod League this past year. I think he hit 3 or 4 home runs as a freshman last year and limited ABs. In the fall, hit 4 or 5 home runs as well. Like, this is a guy who has big time power potential. And I think eventually you're going to see that power production start to show up in the games. And I mean, we've seen flashes of it here. The fact that he's been as good and consistent as he has been offensively here lately without even hitting home runs, I think is just a really positive sign for his future. And I've said this a few times before. I really do feel like this time next year, we're going to be talking about Ryder Helfrick as one of the best catchers in the draft this next year as he enters his junior season. Of course, not draft eligible right now, which is a good thing for Arkansas fans. But the one thing that I think also we shouldn't overlook with Ryder Helfrick, his defense has been pretty good. So he made a really bad error in game 2, ended up costing Gabe Gackle a run. But in that same game, he also threw out 2 base runners, plays that were a lot harder to make than the one that he messed up on the error. So again, not perfect defense. And I think he had maybe a pass ball. I think it was his second or third pass ball of the year got by him. So a little bit of kind of a roller coaster there behind the plate. But I think for the most part, he does a pretty good job handling this staff. It's a lot to ask a true sophomore to call pitches, and that's the task that Arkansas has given to Ryder Helfrick. But it's been good to see his growth and his evolution behind the plate, seeing him get a little bit more comfortable. The game is slowing down for him a little bit. And compared to where he was at last year, I think he's much, much better. And so, again, when I look ahead to the future, I think it's hard not to be extremely optimistic and extremely encouraged about the trajectory Ryder Helfrick is on. And so pleased with his development so far. He's hitting 310 on the year, like I said, 375 in SEC play, which when you go 7 for 8 for a weekend is certainly going to help you. But I think he's done more than enough. I think at this point, can we all confirm Arkansas does not need to bench Ryder Helfrick? I mean, I've defended Nolan Souza a ton, but Ryder Helfrick's another guy that I feel like a lot of the fan base is just not a huge fan of. I don't think people really like Ryder Helfrick for whatever reason. A lot of people were saying, hey, why don't they start Zane Becker? Why don't they start Elliot Peterson? Why don't they start his other, hell, there was even talk about Cam Kozeal being a catcher at one point. I think Ryder at this point, we understand why he's behind the plate. We understand the upside he has. And like I said, I think he's going to be one of the better prospects in his class, especially at his position this time next year. Moving on to our 4th and 5th kind of winners of the weekend, I'm going with the Aloy brothers. So weirdly enough, you see the numbers here, 11 for 26, 3 doubles, 4 walks, 6 runners driven in, scored 13 runs. Now, of course, that's 2 guys combining for those numbers there. But I mean, though, that's with them both. I think they went 0 for 8 combined in game 1 of the series. Neither of those guys had a hit in game 1. And there was starting to be some discussions of, hey, what's going on with Kozeal Aloy? Has the SEC caught up to him? Man, Vahiva really hasn't gotten going. And I think a lot of people after game 1 were like, it's impressive to see Arkansas put it on someone the way they did with neither of the Aloy brothers really getting after it. And how about that? In games 2 and 3 on the doubleheader on Sunday, those dudes just went out there and got after it. So that all 11 of those hits came on Sunday, which is pretty unbelievable. I believe Vahiva had 4 hits in game 2 of the series. Just really good to see those guys kind of break out a little bit, specifically Kozeal Aloy, because I feel like there was he's a little bit less proven. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast, we've known all along that this was going to happen, that there was going to be a correction, because he was hitting like 570 for a while there. And I had this one guy that kept tweeting at me, and he was like, is Kozeal Aloy going to be a Golden Spikes candidate? And I was like, hey, let's pump the brakes. And then every time he'd get a hit, he would tweet at me and be like, update. And I kept saying, look, there's going to be an overcorrection. Both of these guys are kind of streaky at the plate, and we've seen a little bit of that. But as we've always known, when they're never as good as they seem in their best day, and they're never as bad as they seem on their worst day, you kind of just feel like over the course of time, both these guys are going to do enough damage to make it work and show you, why you need to fear them in the middle of that lineup. And so good to see them starting to get hot a little bit. And like I said, for as much as we talk about how up and down both of them are, and they are up and down, you look up and through 12 conference games, Vahiva Aloy is hitting 309 in conference play. Kozeal Aloy is hitting 302 in conference play. And so it's not, not as high as their yearly averages. They're obviously better against non-conference competition, but the idea that like these guys can't do what they've been doing in SEC play, I feel like has always a little bit been an overblown narrative. And it's just good to see these guys developing on the fly. Like we always try and look at these guys and try and determine in our head what they're capable of. But these guys are 19, 20, 21 years old. Kozeal Aloy, this is his first time facing SEC pitching, although I don't know if Missouri would necessarily qualify as SEC pitching. But it's good to see them kind of learning on the fly. And Vahiva, who's now been in the league for a couple of years, think you see him starting to come into his own. He's a lot more comfortable at the plate, starting to take his walks a little bit more. And we know the power production's in there. This weekend was not necessarily conditions that would lend itself to a ton of home runs. And Kozeal, I think it's been a couple weeks for him without a home run, but We know how dangerous those guys are. As the weather starts to heat up, I think you're going to see these guys' power go to another level. In our last weekend winner for the weekend, we went on the pitching side, and this may be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I'm going to go with Landon Beidelshees. And again, I say this a lot. I always put this qualifier out there that a lot of times it's not even about the production and what these guys do. When I give out weekend winners, sometimes it's about the big picture and kind of what these guys have done for themselves in terms of their role on the team. I think Landon Beidelshees is a guy that, frankly, we just don't talk about a ton. And I say that in a good and bad way. Like, I don't come to you guys on the podcast and say, guys, Landon Beidelshees, I'm blown away by how awesome he's been. But I also don't come on this pod and say, Landon Beidelshees, I'm really worried about this guy. We've got to get better production out of him. I feel like he's just been a pretty steady Eddie, just kind of, you know what you're getting. He's going to fill up the zone with strikes. He's going to throw in the low 90s, although his fastball was running up there in that 94, 95 range. Could be interesting to monitor. His stuff's pretty good, man. But I feel like he just eats up innings. Like I said, fills up the zone, and you just know what you're getting, which honestly, isn't that what you want out of your Sunday starter? And like I said, in this outing, it's not like he blew the world on fire. Goes 4 innings, 4 hits, gives up a couple runs, one of which was an unearned run, which I think that was the Ryder Helfrick pass ball that he probably shouldn't have let get by him. Only issues 1 walk, which I believe came to the leadoff hitter, because that's when he had the whole controversy of the leadoff hitter who was celebrating and beating his chest, and the umpire had to stop him. But Landon Beidelshees strikes out 7, which I believe ties his season high. I thought it was a pretty good day at the office, and again, you're against Missouri. You knew Arkansas was going to win no matter what. But I felt like of Arkansas's 3 starters this weekend, Landon Beidelshees was the best. And, Gackle and Root definitely didn't have their best stuff. So it's not really a high bar. But I thought Landon Beidelshees was good. And really, again, coming back to his role on the team, when Gage Wood went down with his injury, at that point in time, Beidelshees was the guy who had been kind of moved to the bullpen. And we had felt like that was kind of where the debate would go. And over the weeks, it's now grown all the way to now it's Gabe Gackle versus Gage Wood. And how's that going to work out? And I also would clarify that we still don't know a definitive timeline on Gage Wood. We don't know if he's going to be back this weekend, next weekend, or if there's been a setback. We're just going to have to wait and see on that. But I think with Beidelshees, like I said, we don't talk about him much. And I think him flying under the radar is actually kind of good in this context. Like I said, that's kind of what you want out of your Sunday starter. And look, we can still have the conversation about what does the rotation need to be? Do you have Gackle in the bullpen? Do you have Beidelshees in the bullpen? Do you have Wood in the bullpen? Do you move around the order? Like, we can have all these conversations. But I think at this point in the season, what Landon Beidelshees brings is stability. And I think this Arkansas pitching staff, it's not like they're lacking stability, but with some key arms down and with some guys that they're still trying to get going, like a Christian Fouch, I think his stability is very valuable to this team. And again, I feel like not that I've overlooked them, but I feel like I haven't given him his props enough. And I wanted to give Landon Beidelshees some love here. This weekend, from a pitching standpoint, I wouldn't say it was like a lights out weekend for Arkansas pitching. Although I should point out the bullpen did not allow a single run. And now there were literally 0 high leverage outings for the entire bullpen. I think that's worth noting. And I think Arkansas, by the way, leads the SEC to this point in the season in bullpen ERA. So as much as we talk about this Razorback pitching staff as kind of underachieving and maybe not quite as good as we thought this year, and I still think that's kind of an accurate assessment, the bullpen has quietly been very consistent, very solid, even more so than the starting rotation. And but I think Landon Beidelshees has done a great job just kind of doing exactly what he's been asked to do, which, like I said, is bring stability to this Arkansas rotation. And so there are your weekend winners, and those are the, I guess, 6 guys that I thought had very notable performances. But before we get out of here, I said we wanted to do some ProHogs. I wanted to run through a little bit of this. Now, I want to clarify also, before I start doing this, Arkansas baseball has become such a cool brand in terms of preparing guys for the next level and sending guys to the next level. And I've always liked to keep my eye on it. Like, I remember growing up, I used to just sift through MLB box scores looking for Arkansas guys. And this is before they really embraced the whole ProHogs thing and made that a whole moniker. It's gotten so out of control. There are so many Razorbacks at different levels of professional baseball. It's a little bit hard to keep up with. Like, I think there's literally 15 Arkansas Razorbacks playing AA baseball, right? And that's just one level. So it can be a little bit tough to kind of keep up with all this. So if I am overlooking someone, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. I tried to go through all the different levels, and the ProHogs tab on the ArkansasRazorbacks.com website is not always updated on some of these guys. Like there's a few guys they have listed on there who like literally are not playing professional baseball, and some guys who are injured or whatever. But I tried to sift through all the box scores of the MILB.com and find as many Razorback performances as I could, and shout out to Baseball Reference who kind of keeps this up. But I just want to do a quick rundown real quick of some guys that I thought have had some notable performances that caught my eye. We're going to start at the AAA level with the Iowa Cubs, who have a couple Pro Hogs on their roster. Connor Nolan made his first start of the 2025 season yesterday, and Connor Nolan, I believe he finished last year in AAA, has just kind of steadily climbed his way through this Cubs organization. And Connor Nolan is a guy that, of course, had a really good senior year for Arkansas, had a nice career, was the ace on a team that went to the College World Series and damn near won it all. I don't think any of us at the time necessarily viewed Connor Nolan as this like can't miss prospect that was undoubtedly going to have a long MLB career, but he's just kind of become undeniable. Just keeps knocking on that door, making his way through each different level of baseball. Threw the ball really well last year. I think he was one of the better. I think he like won some type of award as like the minor league pitcher of the year in the Cubs organization. Has been a really pleasant surprise for the Chicago Cubs. And so he's made his first start at the AAA level the other day. Goes 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk. Only struck out 3, which, by the way, has been like a constant theme. He eats up innings, doesn't strike out a ton of guys, but he always is just putting up zeros on the scoreboard, consistently has a low ERA. And so, you're pitching well at the AAA level, won't be too long before we start, making Connor Nolan on big league debut watch, which is going to be fun to keep track of. And his former teammate at Arkansas is also now his teammate at the professional level, Christian Franklin. You remember him? Gets drafted in 2021. I believe he was a 4th-round pick, and a guy that we always knew had a big-time ceiling. And his pro career was he had a ton of injuries that kind of set him back at the beginning of his pro career, and so it's been a little bit of a delayed rise for Christian Franklin. I feel like he's a guy that has kind of flown under the radar when you talk about Pro Hogs, but very quietly, he got the call. He got to spend spring training with the big league club, which no matter what is always a valuable experience. And he started the year. He's the leadoff guy, starting center fielder for the Iowa Cubs in AAA, hitting .273 so far with an .838 OPS, has 3 doubles so far this year, stolen some bags, drawn some walks, just doing Christian Franklin stuff, man. Really cool to see. And so his career, he's still a very young guy. It's going to be fun to see him. Maybe he can end up making his big league debut maybe by the end of the year, maybe next year. But both those guys that I don't feel like nationally are viewed as like big time prospects, going to be interesting to see if either one of those guys can make their big league debut at some point this year. Another guy at the AAA level, y'all ever heard of Kevin Kopps, who, as we know, of course, former Golden Spikes winner at Arkansas, has not had the best professional career. Like, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him as he's kind of battled his way through the Padres system. He is with the El Paso Chihuahuas right now, and it's been a really good start to his 2025 season. He's been in AAA for a couple years now, but has not been on the 40-man roster. Is just kind of one of those guys that's like kind of hanging on, just trying to keep alive and trying to maybe one day earn that call. Well, he's off to a really good start so far this year, which I feel like this is kind of a make or break year for Kevin Kopps. Like, if this year doesn't go well for him, it might be time to pack it up. But starts off 4 games so far, 5 1/3, 2 hits, 0 runs allowed, has walked 3, has struck out 6. So a really solid, promising start to Kevin Kopps' career, or to his season so far. We'll see if he can one day earn that call and be a guy that can come in and get some guys out in the bullpen. Would really love to see that, man. Nobody has had a more fun baseball journey to keep track of than Kevin Kopps, and so would love to see him get rewarded here soon with a promotion to the big league level. Going on down to AA real quick, Caleb Cowley, as you guys all know, I think we referenced him on the show last week. Loved his time as a Razorback, his 1 year in 2023. If you want to watch him play baseball, just go on down to Little Rock. He is with the Arkansas Travelers in the Mariners system. Is 4 for 9 to start his season at the AA level. And this is his first season at the AA level. And so we'll see if he can kind of start to inch his way up the Mariners organization, but he's off to a nice start. And like I said, you'll get to watch him in Little Rock all season if you want to. Robert Moore is with the Reading Fighting Phils in the Philadelphia Phillies system. He's a Double-A now, has had a pretty solid start to his pro career, and he's also very, very young. I mean, he's a guy that when he got drafted was only 20 years old, and so still only 23. Still plenty of time for him to kind of make things work. He's at the Double-A level. We know how good he is defensively. He's off to a nice start, hitting .333 with an .889 OPS so far. Michael Turner, another guy with the Birmingham Barons, has only played in a couple games so far, but he's 3 of 6, drawn a couple walks. This is his second year at Double-A. He hit .217 last year as the catcher every day for the Birmingham Barons. So we'll see if he's able to kind of build on that. He could be a guy that might be on promotion watch here soon. Maybe could get that call to AAA, make his way one step closer to the big leagues. And a guy that Michael Turner got to catch is Hagen Smith, who made his first start at the Double-A level the other day. Goes 4 innings, does not allow a hit, but he does allow a run because he walked 4 guys, 3 of which came in the first inning. Strikes out 10. If that is not a Hagen Smith outing, then I don't know what is. Really good to see Hagen Smith, who we'll see if he ends up making his big league debut this year. I feel like he's a guy who can get big league hitters out, but I don't think the Chicago White Sox are necessarily going to be in a big hurry to move him through the system because the White Sox aren't very good. Peyton Paulette, by the way, is their teammate as well at the Double-A level with the Birmingham Barons. The White Sox are trying to make Peyton Paulette a closer, and I think that's probably the right way to go for him. He's only made 1 appearance so far, but he came in, retired the side in order, struck out 1 guy, got a save. I'm very intrigued by the Peyton Paulette as a late inning arm type of guy. We know he's electric. I mean, the fastball is going to be up in the mid to high 90s. That curveball, that high spin curveball, that alone is probably going to pay the bills. Going to be interesting to see if he can maybe work his way up through the system soon. Just a few more pitchers to note here. At the high A level, Jackson Wiggins is certainly on promotion watch because he made his professional debut last year. Now, of course, Jackson Wiggins had Tommy John surgery in, I guess it was February of 2023. So he wasn't able to pitch his entire first year at the professional level. Finally was able to make his debut about halfway through last year, quickly earned a little bit of a promotion, finished the year in high A with the South Bend Cubs. And now, of course, he's in the same system as Casey Opitz, who's at the Double-A level for the Cubs. And, of course, Connor Nolan, his former teammate in AAA, his other former teammate, Christian Franklin. And so a lot of Razorbacks to watch in the Chicago sports systems. I think Jackson Wiggins could probably be getting that call to Double-A here in the next couple months. So going to kind of keep our eye on that, and we'll of course keep you updated. Made his first outing of the 2025 season the other day. Goes 3 1/3, gives up a few hits, gives up 1 earned run, walked 3, struck out 4, a little bit of everything, a little bit of the full Jackson Wiggins experience, but a very talented arm. And of course, we're going to be keeping track of his brother here at Arkansas, but we're going to continue to watch Jackson Wiggins and his ascent through the Cubs system. And a couple Razorbacks on last year's pitching staff made their debuts in low A ball over the weekend. Brady Tigert, who's coming out of the bullpen in the Red Sox system. He's with the Salem something. I can't remember the name of the team. It's in the Red Sox system. Had a really good start to his season. 2 2/3 innings, gives up 1 hit, 0 runs, walks a couple, strikes out a couple. Good stuff to see from Brady Tigert. I think bullpen is the way to go for him, and we'll see how fast he can work through that system. Mason Molina is a starting pitcher for the Hickory Crawdads in the Texas Rangers system. So we'll see if he's able to ascend and maybe cross paths with Jax Biggers one day, maybe not. But Mason Molina, this was a very Mason Molina outing to start his year. 4 innings pitched, gives up 2 runs on 2 hits, walks 1, strikes out 8, which I feel like is kind of the Mason Molina method of, the numbers might not blow you away, but the strikeout numbers are always going to be there. And so those are some performances that I wanted to note. Let me know how you guys feel about that. You may not care. You may say, I don't care what these former Hogs are doing at the professional level. And like I said, there may have been some guys that I overlooked. So let me know if there were some performances that you guys noticed. I saw Jared Spraglott hit his first professional home run the other day. That's awesome. Jalen Battles, by the way, with the Montgomery Biscuits in Double-A, could also be on promotion watch here. He hit a 400-foot home run. So let me know if there were any other performances that I missed. And let me know in the comments if you guys care or not. But appreciate you guys for kicking it with me on today's Baumbastic Podcast. Hope you enjoy the weekend winners. Hope you enjoyed the ProHog watch. We will be back tomorrow night for an in-state battle. The Arkansas Razorbacks are taking on Arkansas State Red Wolves at Baum-Walker Stadium in some midweek action. We'll have the recap there, and then we're on to Georgia for a very important road series for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Appreciate you guys always tapping in with the Baumbastic Podcast. Been another brilliant edition. We will see you tomorrow.